was going to be missed by the entire world. For the past several years, Lennon had been living quietly in New York, keeping house and caring for his 5-year-old son. In his last interview conducted with the RKO radio network just hours before the murder, the 40-year-old musician said he hoped to die before his wife because he couldn't carry on without her. It's part of the final interview conducted yesterday afternoon in New York.
You have to give thanks to God or whatever it is up there, the fact that we all survived. We all survived Vietnam or Watergate or the tremendous upheaval of the whole world that's changed. We were the hip ones in the 60s, but the world is not like the 60s. And the whole map's changed, and we're going into an unknown future, but we're still all here. While there's life, there's hope.
Yoko Ono's younger brother in Tokyo said today he is preparing to leave for the United States in an effort to persuade his sister to return to Japan. He says in Japan she doesn't have to worry about gunshots anymore. We'll keep you updated throughout the day, Danny, on some latest developments and reaction about the murder of John Lennon last night in New York.
Any reaction from the other Beatles? I think that'd be interesting. We'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, Paul McCartney, the only thing he could say, the only thing that we received news on from Paul, who was in London, Essex, was that he was in deep, deep shock. And he said that Lennon was a great guy. He'll be missed by the whole world. Spokesman for Ringo Starr said the Beatles' former drummer has broken off a vacation to fly to the United States. He says Starr is extremely shocked and doesn't want to say any more at this time. And, of course, the fourth member, George Harrison, is also deeply upset. And the only word we received from George is that he's canceled the recording session, which was planned for later today.
Thank you, Paul. I'm sure because we don't know what happened, why he was murdered, why this man gunned him down, I'm sure there's probably guards around the other Beatles.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Jerry, what do you think about that?
Yeah, could possibly. I just think, you know, from the people that we talked to this morning and the conditions surrounding the murder, is that things just sort of happen. It's like the earthquake. I mean, there only has to be one nut. The law enforcement agent who we had on earlier this morning said that people in prominence, celebrities in the public's eye or ear in this case, seem to be a target of the people who don't have a full deck of cards to play with or have a screw loose, and that's sort of the situation here. And you can't, no matter how many preventative, you know, precautionary kind of steps you take, you can't always keep these kind of things from happening, because it's oftentimes when you're dealing with a person who's not wrapped tight, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. Now, as Murray and I were talking this morning, according to the initial reports, that there was some bit of, not necessarily specifically surrounding the murder itself, but there was some premeditation involved with this David Chapman guy being there on the premises of the Dakota. It's not like it was a subway mugging, and Dennis, being from New York City, was very strong about pointing that out, as John Lennon loved New York and went out of his way to remain a citizen in the United States and a resident of New York City. And so this guy had come from Hawaii. The gun had somehow been shipped here from Hawaii. So it's not like the guy lived down the street and it was a mugging, another New York street crime, but there was some planning involved. As far as this person being on the premises at this particular time, he had spent a lot of time and knew of John Lennon's comings and goings. One thing I wanted to interject before I leave is that we had a number of calls first thing this morning. You know how our audience has always been very supportive of campaigns we do on the air, whether it's a contest or a news event like this that we become heavily involved in as far as covering it. And a lot of people wanted to know what they should do. And that might be something that you can pick up the ball and follow up on between now and lunchtime, is that what can KC101-FM listeners do? Should we circulate petitions and send a letter of condolence to Yoko or to someone in Lennon's family? Should we drive with our lights on? I mean, we have, I was talking to the boss yesterday, and oftentimes when I refer to our audience, I remember that, remind people that there are strength in numbers. And I always quote the generic statistic that we have about 100,000 people out there, and I've been corrected. It's more like 196,000, which is real close to 200,000 people who listen to KC101-FM. That's almost 250,000 people in Connecticut, Western Massachusetts, and Long Island who listen to the station and like it and are very supportive of it, and we thank them for that. And that's a lot of people. That is a strong body of radio listening, record buying people that could get together and show their love and affection and support for the Beatles, and particularly for John Lennon. So I leave that in your hands. What decision you make, I think we should follow up on.
Very good. I think we will do that. We will come up with something. I'm sure Yoko is going to announce she doesn't want flowers sent. We don't even know where the funeral and the wake is going to be held, where it can be held. There'd be an incredible amount of people trying to get there.
That in itself would be, needless to say, an unfortunate 3/4 of the Beatles reunion.
Right.
And I'm sure that the other guys would want to attend, their close personal friends and family.
Oh.
And how do you have a funeral that private? I mean, even if the funeral service itself, no matter where it is, no matter what,
there is no doubt that the four of them will be together again.
Exactly. For a few moments, the four of them will be together when the man is buried. I would think little of them for not being in attendance, but when you consider the security that would have to be, it
would probably have to be an undisclosed location.
It would have to be out in the Swiss Alps, where you have 100 billion acres to accommodate all the people who at the last minute will find out about it and spend their last penny to be there to say that they were part of it. So that in itself is sort of unfathomable to even consider the ramifications of his funeral and keeping it private, because you can't keep the life of someone like him private.
No. Well, we don't know his last wishes. We don't know how he wants to be buried. We don't know how he wants to go out. We will try to find that information out before 12 o'clock today and pass that along to our audience, and we'll do what we can.
Willie B. had a special report that he put together late last night before you and Floyd got in at midnight. And according to the recent Playboy interview, it was pointed out that he doesn't want to be considered a burnout, as so many other rock stars who had burned out on drugs or suicide or this or that, but he would prefer to live out his life as a happy father and husband and a good, wholesome human being, and he wanted to just fade away, and he wanted to be one of the Beatles in history and be himself in history, but not burn out accordingly.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. KC101 pays tribute to John Lennon all day on Connecticut's favorite KC101.